All right. Well, again, hello everyone. My name is Lisa Blumenthal. I serve as one of our associate directors of admission here at Whitworth. I get to work with our transfer students from the Spokane region. So we have two other transfer counselors that couldn't be here today, but we have a transfer counselor that works with students from out of state. So if you're from California, that would be your person. And then we have another transfer counselor that works with all of our Washington state, not Spokane. So that's kind of where our distinction is. Thanks again for joining us for our transfer overview webinar. If you're here, that means you're very interested in coming to Whitworth or transferring to Whitworth or just learning about Whitworth in general, depending on your level of familiarity with us. Um, so you can know who's talking to you today. I'm a proud Whitworth alum. I graduated from Whitworth in 2018 with a degree in psychology. And now I'm back here at Whitworth getting to serve our other transfer students. I transferred into Whitworth actually from a community college in Kansas. And it just wasn't working for me. I was looking for something more rigorous and specific. And I found myself here at Whitworth, and I was able to have a wonderful experience. So I know what it's like to be in your shoes. If some of you are still kind of, maybe you're in your first year somewhere and it doesn't feel like it's the right fit, just know that you're not alone in that process. So thanks again for being here. We are going to talk a little bit about who Whitworth is. Depending on how familiar you are, some of it will be brand new to you, or it could also be something that you might be just a little bit familiar. So we're going to talk about Whitworth in general, and then we're going to go over some details about our application process. I know some of you maybe are in the room and you're still considering applying, and then we're going to touch on some of the scholarships that Whitworth has to offer. So let's just dive right in. Just a few housekeeping items for all you. There is a little Q&A feature. So if at any point throughout the presentation you have any questions, just make sure you drop them in that Q&A chat. And then towards the end of our time today, we'll be able to address some of those in particular, depending on what kinds of questions you have. So without further ado, we always like to start here with our mission. It's really central to who we are as a university. I think for me, that was kind of an impactful part of my experience at Whitworth is these two words, the mind and heart. And at Whitworth, we believe in an education that shapes both your mind and your heart. So when you think of Whitworth, think of a place that is going to nurture all the parts that make up who you are, right? So we're intentional about helping students grow personally, professionally, relationally, spiritually, physically. If you're an athlete, like this is a place where you'll get to experience this whole person nurturing. In the classroom, you're going to find yourself challenged with our rigorous curriculum. You will also find spaces where you feel supported in your faith and your values and what's really important to you, and diving deep into your identity and who you are and what you're hoping to do outside of college. And really what we want all students to experience is walking out of Whitworth equipped to make a real difference. Whatever you decide to do and whatever field you end up going, is that you are a difference maker out there. So you're not just coming here to Whitworth to just earn your degree. That's obviously what most colleges are for. But Whitworth really offers this transformative experience where you're here to become the kind of person who thinks deeply about things, whether that's your worldview, about other topics. You are also going to become someone that lives with a purpose. You're pursuing jobs and careers that really are going to be fulfilling to you. And we also want to be this place where you learn to serve others with compassion. So this is really central to who we are here at Whitworth, and we want students to be able to experience that throughout their time here. Whitworth size is really kind of what makes that huge difference. We want to create this educational experience of this mind and heart. And one of the ways that we do this is our student body. So we have under 2,000 undergraduate students. We have a 10-to-1 student faculty ratio. So you'll never really just be a face, mixed in the crowd. Your professors are really intentional at wanting to get to know you. You're not just another body coming through their door. I'd say this kind of close-knit environment is what allows for those meaningful interactions between you and, say, a professor in the biology department or the psychology department, or really anywhere you go. It doesn't have to be necessarily in your major. We are intentional about creating spaces for students to build relationships with staff and faculty in that way. That is one of the main reasons why we are #1 for best undergraduate teaching in the West, according to the US News and World Report. So not only are professors are really good at what they teach, but it's also how they teach. It's how they relate to students, how they're intentional about wanting to create connections with you both in and outside of the classroom. That is kind of at the center of what they do. We have a saying here at Whitworth, our professors usually say, like, you've made it through, someone's life, or you've touched their life in such a special way when you get invited to their weddings. And it kind of sounds silly at the same time, but it's also one of those things that it really shows how we're committed at really bringing students at the front and center of what professors do, and getting to build those relationships. With 88% of your classes fewer than 30 students, what you'll benefit from is from small, personalized classroom experiences where you really get to know your peers, you really get to know your professors, and you also have the space where you can grow both academically and personally. Kind of in that same note of academics, we offer over 100 majors and programs. So although we're kind of small in that sense, we have so many different options to choose from. That is one of the coolest things about Whitworth, is that we have several things that a lot of students have interest from. So what we see normally with transfer students in particular is we see a strong interest in disciplines like education, health science, business, psychology is another one of them, and computer science. So those, I would say, are the most popular ones, but that is not to say that all of our other programs are not strong. That's just typically what we see most of our transfer students pursue. So whether you're like interested in becoming an art teacher, or you want to go into music, or you want to go into engineering or English, those programs are really strong, and oftentimes students benefit from a lot of the same experiences that all of those other strong programs will do. And if you're like still trying to figure out, or maybe you're totally switching, that's totally fine. Whitworth is a liberal arts school, so that means you get to really dive into a lot of different other disciplines and really get to find what you might be interested in my conversations with transfer students, this topic tends to come up a lot because they have an idea of, you might have an idea, right, of what career path you want to go to, but maybe you're still trying to identify what you want to do. Whitworth is a perfect place for that, because if you're unsure, we give you these opportunities or spaces where you can explore different subjects and find what's going to fit your career goals a little bit better. So that mind and heart growth, that personal experience, doesn't just happen in the classroom. At Whitworth, we really emphasize hands-on learning, and we call this experiential learning opportunities. So these hands-on experiences can be things like studying abroad, doing service learning, so serving your community. It's really, again, built into our mission. It could also be like research or teaching assistantships or internships, right? Or practicums. All of this things is what we refer to as experiential learning opportunities. And yes, most universities in the country offer some of these experiences, but one of the benefits of a school small as Whitworth is that they're more accessible. So thinking about, okay, I would love to go study abroad to Europe one day, or maybe go to Hawaii. 60% of our students last year got to go study abroad. That's a very high percentage of students who have accessibility to this kind of experience, and can benefit from that. And you're not limited to your major either. So if you want to go take your biblical literature class in London, you can do that. Or your math class, you want to learn about it, how it works in the UK, like things like that. Those are more accessible and kind of at the tip of your fingers. On a similar note, things like research, a lot of universities offer research opportunities. However, those can be kind of limited, or it can be a little bit more competitive. In my program in psychology, we got to do 2 research projects, which was really beneficial when it comes to things like grad school. You really get a lot of lab experience. or just kind of learning how to read literature. But some students also get to do research with faculty. So not only are you helping them contribute to their field, get published in that manner, but you're also getting to build your portfolio while you do that. Similarly, with internships and practicums, most of our programs require some kind of practicum internship as part of the program requirements. So whether that's through business or psychology, I did a practicum for about 100 hours, and that really connected me with the Spokane community, and I got to see areas where there was more of a need. So if it's not required, it's highly encouraged for students to jump into these opportunities. We have departments that are specifically to connect other students to the local community and what kinds of internships are available. But again, the accessibility is going to be the most important part of where you choose to attend and how those work. We wouldn't be the university that we are without our students. Yes, our professors really make that transformative experience, but it's our students who really come in and make Whitworth who we are. That's going to be an important part of where you choose to transfer to. If that's something that's really important to you, it's how students connect with each other. What campus life is like. That's a very big deal when it comes to deciding where to go. While many of our students choose to live on campus, and this is primarily for our first year students, transfer students who graduated 2 years or more since high school are not required to. But if you're interested in wanting to get plugged into the campus community, we have 9 residence halls on campus, all different personalities and experiences, but really what they all have in common is this kind of close-knit community in which it fosters friendships, or just a supportive environment for you to live with and people to learn from. We also have a really active student body. So whether that's joining one of our 200 clubs, we have cultural clubs as well as academic clubs. As Latina, I was part of our OLA club, and we would host dancing nights or opportunities to celebrate our cultures or Independence Day, things like that. And then we have other opportunities for students to really showcase their cultural traditions, as well as a chess club, or I know our psychology club also has other things. So you can get plugged in a variety of different spaces. You just kind of have to put yourself out there. We also have a lot of campus events. There are student government usually puts together things throughout the year that are most of the time free to students, if not maybe $5 or less. And we have everything from a bingo night to Spring Fest, usually around springtime of the year, where it's kind of a 3-day event, and all of these activities are free to students. So there's definitely spaces where you can get plugged in and make friendships and get to know other people, and still benefit from that free activities, right? It could also be things like in the res halls, we have what we call prime time. And from 8 to 10, every single day, there's an activity. So really, there's always something going on campus. I wouldn't say that you're always going to be bored. There's always going to be something, either it's something hosted by a club or through a specific program, there's always going to be those kinds of opportunities. For those students who love the arts, we have opportunities and really great opportunities for students who want to be maybe involved in music, theater, visual arts. And the great thing about some of these is that you don't have to be one of those majors. So it's open to all majors or non-majors of those in particular, but there's also those great opportunities to get plugged in. We're also proud to be a really diverse and inclusive campus. So we want all students from all backgrounds to feel seen and heard and supported here on campus. That was a very important part for me as to why I chose to come to Whitworth. We have students from over 40 countries represented here on campus. A little over 30% of our students are first generation students. So there's such a rich, diverse student body that I think is what enriches our student life. So if you're looking for something like that, then Whitworth could be a good fit for you. And of course, our Pirate Pride really runs deep. We're a Division III athletic program, so we don't have athletic scholarships, but we do have really good sports programs. So whether that's, being part of a team, you're also getting to experience community, or if you're even on the stands, you still get to experience that school pride. We're really competitive in our division. We won the last 14 of the 16 all sports trophies. So our teams are really doing some awesome uh, things out there in the athletic world, but also our student athletes have amongst the highest GPA. So if you're a transfer student and you're considering, or maybe you're in conversations with some of our coaches, you're really getting to benefit from a lot of that D3 environment where academics and athletics can coexist and you can give 100% in both of them. Alongside some of these vibrant activities on campus, part of student life also involves spaces for spiritual growth. So I think Whitworth does a really great job of offering this unique space in which students get to pursue their faith or grow in their faith in a way that feels most meaningful to them. So all of our faculty and staff are Christian. However, we come from a variety of different denominations. So we really get to kind of bring on or really build on our diverse campus experience through that. We have also opportunities for students to dive deep in their faith if that is something that's important to them. So one of the main ones that we have is we have chapel twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 11:30. No classes are scheduled at this time. However, it's not a requirement for students to be at chapel. We want chapel to feel like a space where you feel invited and called to if that's important to you, but also know that you have opportunities to not have to engage if that's not something that's important to you. We also have campus ministry groups, worship nights, life groups. So there's definitely ways in which you can grow in your faith. It doesn't just end at chapel. Even in our residence halls, we have campus ministry coordinators that can help you grow in your faith. But really, we want Whitworth to be this space where you get to have deep conversations with other people, ask those tough questions, and really get to explore your worldviews and your beliefs and how people interact with each other, and find opportunities where you can grow spiritually in a supportive environment like Whitworth. For those of you who might not be familiar where Whitworth is, we are in beautiful Spokane, Washington. We are so blessed to be in a city that has two other amazing institutions, so you can have a little bit of everything. But really, the great thing about Spokane is that we are a big city with a small city feel. So we are the second largest city in the state, but sometimes it doesn't really feel like that because we have so much to offer. Our campus in particular is located north of Spokane, so you're kind of getting towards the more woodsy side of Spokane. But if you're looking for things like, if you're into snow sports, we have Mount Spokane that's about an hour from campus. You can literally see it every morning. If you're more of like the outdoorsy, floating on the river or paddleboarding, there's tons of rivers and lakes nearby. We have an entire river that flows through our city. So you're never going to be bored in those ways. But if you're also looking for something that's a little bit more low key, that countryside living, there's also spaces for that too. So you're really getting a lot of the best of many worlds in one big old city. We're also in the four-season climate side of the state, so you'll get to experience the winters, the springs. Spring is my favorite time, and then some awesome summers. Spokane is also home to several different events throughout the year. So if you're not super familiar with what Spokane has to offer, we also host the largest 3v3 basketball tournament in the world called Hoop Fest, if you don't know. We also have things like Bloom's Day. We have night markets in almost every single part of town. So you're never going to get bored. You just kind of have to go out there. Again, our campus is kind of more on the north side, so you still get to experience a little bit of that, but not the tall buildings that you might be looking at. Okay, so that was on Whitworth. Hopefully that sold you into it, or you're becoming even more intrigued, and maybe you're wondering, okay, I love it. How do I join your community? Our application is designed to be as streamlined as possible. First things first, you'll notice our application is free for all students. There's no application fee. It's a really straightforward process. That link, whitworth.edu/apply, is a quick way to go into it. But really all we need from you is a Whitworth application, so our transfer application, or you can also apply to Whitworth through the Common App. We don't really have a preference which one you choose to use. it's really going to come down to you as a student and what you want to do. If you're doing the Common App, you can send your application to multiple schools. The Whitworth app is a little bit more concise and you can just get it done in like uh 15 minutes or so. Transfer students as well, all we need from you is a college transcripts or transcripts if you've attended multiple institutions. We're going to need all of those transcripts, so just make sure that when you're submitting your application, you report every single school that you've earned a college credit from. And then you'll see we have some optional materials, and these are strictly to be optional for you to be able to build on your application. So maybe your college transcript doesn't really represent who you are. You had a little bit of a tough quarter or semester and you want us to have context. A writing sample or an essay not only gives us insight into your writing skills, but also it allows us to, get some context on your transcript and what we're seeing, right? So giving that whole piece of a pie as opposed to just half of it is going to help a lot. Letters of recommendation are also really great. Gives us some insight to you as a student. So if you have someone that can really speak to your growth or a course that you really struggled with and you want someone to really speak to the ways that you applied yourself, those are great spaces to get to do something like that. Here are a couple transfer deadlines as you're thinking about applying to Whitworth. You'll see that for spring 2026, that application is due on December 1st. So if you are in this webinar and you're interested in transferring to Whitworth in the spring of 2026, that application should open in about 2 months or so. You'll be notified if we know of that information, but that one will be due December 1st. But we're kind of on that July 1st regular admission deadline if you're still trying to enroll this fall. We're still accepting applications. Like I said, it's a free application, so it doesn't hurt to submit one. And then on the other dates below, we're already sending financial aid offers to transfer students. We meet with you. We want to make sure that you have an understanding of your offer. So all of that happens through your transfer counselor, whether that's me or my other 2 colleagues. You have the opportunity to do any of those. And then lastly, the August 1st is a national enrollment deposit deadline. So this is a day that you let us know if you're going to be enrolling at Whitworth. You're welcome to do that at any point before August 1st. But the sooner you do it, the more safe you are at securing your spot here at Whitworth. Moving along to something a little bit different. Obviously, it's going to be important to affordability and manageability, right? So wherever you choose to transfer, it's going to be really important to know, well, really, how much is it going to cost me? 100% of students receive some form of financial aid here at Whitworth. So if you see a sticker price and you see it and you're like, there's no way, don't walk away just yet. Just know that the vast majority of students don't pay that sticker price. That's because we're committed at making Whitworth affordable and we believe in the value of our education. We've also been giving number 1 for best value for regional universities here in the Northwest. So as you're thinking about, okay, I love Whitworth, I want to hear a little bit more, what kinds of scholarships, here's a variety of them that you can consider. Whitworth.edu/scholarships has a little bit more for you, especially if you are a veteran connected student. So if you wanted to know a little bit about GI Bill, things like that, that could be a really great resource. But here are some that could apply to you. The university scholarship in particular is guaranteed to every admitted student. So if you go and apply in Whitworth and you are admitted, you're already guaranteed a university scholarship. What's going to depend on that range between 18 and 30,000, we will be looking at that college GPA or your cumulative GPA if you've attended multiple schools. That university scholarship is also renewable every year up to 4 years. So it'll follow you throughout your time here at Whitworth, which is such a neat thing to have. The university grant is a need-based grant. So this is from Whitworth, but we will need your FAFSA or your WASFA in order to confirm your eligibility, and you can receive up to $3,000. If you're a transfer student and you're considering living on campus, the on-campus housing grant is another grant from Whitworth that is also need-based. So not only is it living on campus, but also it's need-based. So we'll need a FAFSA in order to confirm your eligibility. I talked a little bit about opportunities to be involved in the arts. This is kind of where we also have scholarships attached to some of these. It's what we call talent and participation. So the amounts tend to vary. So we have for art, music, speech and debate, young life, things like that. If any of those intrigue you, that could also be an option. For our fall 25 students, most of those scholarships have been exhausted at this point. So if you're still thinking maybe for next year, applying early to Whitworth is really going to help in that process. We also have a visit scholarship, and you have the opportunity to receive a $1,000 non-renewable scholarship. This is just a way of saying, hey, thank you for coming and checking us out, giving us the opportunity to showcase who we are. We still have one more event this year. If you're still interested in coming to learn about Whitworth and you're thinking of enrolling this fall, it's going to be on May 23rd. You can just reach out to us and we can send you a link to register, or you can also go to our website and click on visit and sign up for that. We also have a Phi Theta Kappa scholarship. So some of you might be involved in your Phi Theta Kappa at your community college. This is an honor society. And you can qualify for about $1,500 Phi Theta Kappa scholarship. The requirements for this is you need to have served in the PTK society for 3/4 worth or 1 academic year. So if that's you, really, we just need your PTK advisor to send us an email confirming your participation. So it's pretty straightforward. But again, you have to have served for about 3/4 worth of that. And then if you are a military connected student or you are a dependent of a former service member, we also have a military service scholarship for up to $1,500. So tons and tons of different opportunities to make Whitworth manageable for students. And again, we walk you through your financial aid offer. We make sure that you have an understanding of what you're looking at, but it's going to be really important to submit something like a FAFSA in order to get a complete picture of your resources. The main question obviously is, I love a place, but how are my credits going to transfer, right? You've spent maybe 2 schools or you spend a significant amount of time somewhere. It's going to be really important to know the transferability of some credits. If you in high school had any AP tests that you transfer over to your school, the Whitworth.edu's test for credit will be a great place to go look at. We take scores of 4s and 5s with AP tests, and all you need to do is go into the College Board website and have those tests get sent to Whitworth so we can assign credit where credit is due. For college courses in particular, which is what most of you will have, the general rule is anything 100 level or above. So that's the course with a C or higher. That's kind of what we're looking at in terms of transferability. Now, it's going to be a little bit different. It's not always about if they will transfer, but more so how. It's that course equivalency. And there's a tool that I can encourage you to go and check out. It's free. You can find a lot of course equivalencies through other universities as well, not just Whitworth, where you can compare your transcript and see how those will transfer at, say, other institutions that you might be looking at. So that could be a good place to kind of start doing your homework. But we also can walk you through the steps of getting an official evaluation through Whitworth as you connect with your admissions counselor. Some of you will also have, maybe you are coming in with an AA or an AS degree from a Washington State Community College or Colorado or Idaho, Oregon, or Montana. And most of those programs or AAs or ASs, they're kind of direct transfer agreements. They go for AADTA. And really what they mean is those degrees are meant to mimic general education requirements, say at a 4-year university. So in our case, at Whitworth, if the student comes in with an AA or an AS from any of those community colleges from any of the states that you see, you get junior standing. So most community colleges function on a quarter basis. So 90 quarter credits is usually what you need to get an AA. So that is going to be the equivalent of 60 semester credits. You can transfer up to 96 quarter credits. So just keep that in mind. But what that does is that it waives most of your general education requirements here. Whitworth is what we refer to them as shared curriculum. With the exception of a few classes that are more Whitworth specific, meaning we don't really have equivalencies at other schools because it's just specific to us. So you'll see it on the slides there, the transfer seminar class. This is just to introduce you to Whitworth, connect with other transfer students. We have a biblical literature course. As I mentioned earlier, we are a Christian institution. However, some of these classes can vary in terms of content. And then we also have a faith, reason, and contemporary issues course. And this can look from philosophy to ethics to many other things. So those would be the only three from the general education that you would take. So what an AA or an AS does is just it gives you more time to focus on your major. Now, if you are transferring from another four-year university, we'll basically look at your courses individually and see if we have established equivalencies. Keep in mind that not all courses are going to be the exact course equivalency. So what I mean by that is, even if a course is called similar to what it's called at Whitworth, it's going to come down to what the course outcomes are. So we'll communicate with you on those. Our registrar office evaluates those for deposited students. But if you have any questions, again, transferology could be a good place to look. But I acknowledge that not all schools might be listed on there. As we start to wrap up, I wanted you to know our transfer team. Adrian is our transfer counselor working with students who are international transfer students and Washington, not Spokane students. So there's her email. If you have any questions, you can reach out to her. We also have Leah, who works with our out-of-state. So the person who joined us from California, that would be your person. There's her email. You can take a picture of this or a screenshot, whatever works for you. As I said, I work with students from Spokane. So if you go to SCC, SFCC, I would be your best point person. And if you're a military connected student, if you're a veteran, you're automatically considered a transfer student. So you want to touch base with Phil first, and then he can be accessible to you when it comes to how do you apply some of those military benefits and so forth. And then you'll meet with either Adrian, Leah, or myself, depending on where you are located. And if you're looking for other ways to connect with other transfer students, you can follow us on CME. This is an app. You scan this, it's going to prompt you to download an app. And this is just another way where you can connect with other incoming transfer students or students who might be thinking of transferring to Whitworth. If you want to hear where they're from or what kinds of questions they have, admissions counselors, myself, we jump in and answer any questions that you might have. But overall, if you do have questions and you don't have our contact information, our admissions at whitworth.edu is just an email that gets to all of us and we can jump in and answer those questions. But you can also check our website. We have a lot of information about our transfer policies, information about our application, how to apply, all of the things that I mentioned today. That's going to be your home base. And if you do have a chance to come visit campus, please do so. It's a beautiful time of the year. Come and explore, get a feel for it. If you're local or maybe you're not local, we want to hear from you. We want to make sure that this feels like the right fit for you. So with that, I would love to open it up for any questions that you guys might have. You can throw these in the Q&A chat or on the chat, whatever works for you. And we can go from there. Any questions? We will have a recording of this. So if you came in a little bit later, don't worry. We will likely publish this on our YouTube channel, or you can also reach out to us and we can get you the link directly so you can watch it later. Ooh, we had a question. Is living on campus a requirement for Spokane residents? Good question. So not necessarily. What's going to be really important is the window in which you graduated from high school. So if you graduated high school 2+ years ago, you're not required to live on campus. If you are within that window, you might be required, but we do have a housing waiving process if you're going to be living at home with parents. Has to be with like your mom or dad or both, and within a 30-minute drive to campus. That's a good question. Ooh, can I have a double major? Absolutely. You can double major, you can major or minor. Just something to keep in mind though is that as a transfer student, right, you're going to be bringing some credits, and if you're adding something additional, that could potentially extend a little bit of that time that you spend here at Whitworth. But you'll have an academic advisor. You're still benefiting from that small class size, right? That individualized, personalized academic advising. So they can help you manage that if that's something that you're interested in. Ooh. Someone asked, if we're not taking the right courses to transfer, should we contact you guys or our current counselor? So that is a little bit tricky because as transfer counselors, we can't do a lot of the academic advising. So usually my best advice is if you're taking the path towards an AA or an AS, stay the path you're on because that's really just going to be the best case scenario. You can use transferology to kind of guide yourself a little bit. What I have students do before is open up transferology, open the course requirements at Whitworth for a specific program, which all of them are listed on our website, and then start to compare from there. Keep in mind that maybe the 300 level classes are not going to be, we might not have established equivalencies, but you can use transferology to kind of guide yourself. What kinds of jobs are on campus? That's a really good question. You are more than welcome to have a job on campus, even as a transfer student. I did it myself. I worked in the financial aid office kind of during the week. And then on the weekends, I worked for the athletics department. We have jobs in the dining hall. Our admissions office is always hiring. The library through different programs, the post office. We have coffee shops on campus. Our grounds crew. So there's definitely, we have over 700 jobs on campus. So there's definitely going to be some options, and there's definitely some benefits to that. Does the art and talent scholarships need to take some art classes while we have the scholarship? That's a good question. So for the talent and participation scholarships, music is one that doesn't require you to be a music major. The other ones will require some kind of declaring that as your major. So with something like art, that would definitely be something that you'd eventually have to major in. With music, there's a little bit of more flexibility in that you can, be a psychology major and participate in our have a music scholarship, but the requirements to keep the scholarship are participating in one of our ensembles and taking some lessons. But with something like art, there is definitely that kind of major requirement. So for those of you who might be from out of state, and you are going to have an AA or an AS, if you remember in the previous slide, California is not listed on the states that we have this transfer equivalency with like a DTA. So what's going to happen with your transcripts is we're just going to look at your classes course by course and see how those fit into our general education requirements. There might be several similarities. We just don't have established agreements with California community colleges. But it's a great idea, and that's something that I've always advocated to because we do get some students from California. Great questions, you guys. For the person who asked about um, double majoring, they had asked if they could delay to graduate. That's a possibility, but I can't really confirm that that's going to be the case. It's really going to matter what you're bringing in, how that fits, and if there's space for you to kind of throw in another major or minor, depending on what your timeline is. So your academic advisor will work with you if that's something that you're interested in. So don't toss the idea away just yet. Once you meet with your advisor and you're here, that should help you. Any other questions? Yeah, really good question. So someone just asked, what makes a private school such as Whitworth worth the additional price tag compared to a public school in your opinion? I personally, I guess they're different. You're kind of comparing apples to oranges in terms of cost. Public schools or state schools are going to be always more affordable than what you might find at the private level. However, at the private level, you have access to a lot more scholarships than you might not have through a state school. Most state schools as well are pretty big. So I usually like to circle back to what kind of academic experience you're looking for as you are comparing them. So, like I said earlier, right, we're pretty small in that sense that students, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more relational and you're looking for that individualized attention and connection and things like that, if you value that, then it feels worth the investment. A lot of our students are employable soon after college, if about within like 6 to 9 months post graduation. We also You might also want to consider retention rates as you're comparing public and private schools. As well as graduation rates, right? How many students from four-year universities to public finish within the 4 years? So there's definitely different layers to it. But again, it's going to really come down to going through the process with both schools and comparing those and then looking at what is it that you are really valuing. I know some of you have asked to unmute. For the purpose of the webinar, we're kind of using the chat and I'm just repeating some of the questions. So I'm really sorry about that inconvenience, but feel free to keep throwing some questions on the chat. I've really enjoyed some of the questions that you guys have asked. Anything else? If you're asked, someone asked about our acceptance rate, it's about 91%. With transfers, it might just be a little bit different. I'd say when I'm reviewing applications, um, I'm looking for upward grade trends and at least anywhere between 2.8 or higher. But again, having those additional application materials are helpful to give us some of that content context into your transcript. So that could also help. If you do someone a follow-up question on the double majoring, if you double major or minor, it doesn't really change the cost of tuition. You can do both of them and the cost of tuition will continue to stay the same. We do have, we're on a semester basis school. So some of you might be used to the quarters. So we have 4 months in the fall, and then 4 months in the spring. And then right in the middle of that is what we call a Jan term, a January term. And this is just an opportunity to take 3 to 5 credits for $385. It's a flat fee. It's a great way to get ahead in your credits. But it's kind of in that middle in January, really just those 3 weeks. And it's totally optional. If you want to pursue that, you can do that. If you choose to take a break and have a longer winter break and then just come back for spring semester, you can also do that. But I personally took advantage of all of them, and that really allowed me to be done at a reasonable time. Someone asked also if there's a limit in credits. Yes, so anywhere between 12 and 16. 12 is really the minimum because that's what, for financial aid purposes, it's considered full-time. 16 is kind of the max. You can take a little bit, you can take 18 if you want to, but at that point, financial aid doesn't apply. So you start to pay per credit. So anywhere between 12 and 16, the price of tuition is the same. So someone had a question about Jan term, and I'm sorry I didn't spend a lot of time addressing this kind of in our presentation. So they're not necessarily accelerated. I would say you either take like a 3 credit class or a 4 credit class and maybe a 1 credit class. It could be something like PE or something like that. But in a way, it kind of feels accelerated, but you do still get credit for that. It's added towards your credits counting to graduation. So it's really beneficial. I highly recommend all students to do it just because it's really fun. It's pretty light. And then it's also really cheap, $385, a flat fee to take 3 to 5 credits. It's a really good deal. Yes, 12 to 16 credits is kind of where you stay. Semester credits is kind of where we want students to stay. It's really going to come down to what you can manage. I usually hovered between 14 and 15 because I also had jobs on campus, so I wanted to be able to have some pretty a good balanced schedule. But again, if you want to go over 16, you would pay per credit at that point. So financial aid wouldn't apply. Each course, so within those 12 and 16, there could be 4 credit courses, there could be 3 credit courses, or 1 credit courses as well. So it could be a variety. It's going to depend on the maybe it's a 400 level class or a 300 level class, or just the content as well. Great questions, everyone. I really appreciate it. I'm going to give maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and if those don't come up, we can just wrap up. And again, you're welcome to reach out for any questions. Admissions@whitworth.edu is a great place. Yes, if you go over the 16 credits, so once you say you want to enroll in another 2 credit or 3 credit class, you pay per credit at that point, right? Like once you hit 16. I will put in the chat an email if you guys have any more questions. You can reach out to us at admissions@whitworth.edu, and we'll be happy to walk you through that process. Thank you everyone for your wonderful questions and your time. I hope this was helpful. So if you still consider Whitworth in your plans, we would love to hear more from you. So I hope everyone has a great evening. Bye.